The year is 1812. Europe is in a state of turmoil. Napoleon Bonaparte, the French emperor and one of the greatest military leaders in history, is at the height of his power. Almost every country in Europe is either under his control, defeated, or allied. Only one power, Britain, is unwilling to bow to him. To break Britain's economic power, Napoleon creates the continental system, which means that all European countries will stop trading with Britain. This will be the economic death of Britain. Initially, many countries agree to this system, including Russia. But over time, this policy becomes detrimental to Russia. Around 1810, Tsar Alexander breaks this agreement and resumes trade with Britain. Napoleon is furious and decides that Russia must be taught a lesson. June 24, 1812. Napoleon crosses the Russian border with his huge army, the Grand Armée. The number of troops was about 600,000, one of the largest armies in history. This army included not only the French, but also soldiers from Austria, Prussia, Italy, Poland, and other European countries. Napoleon expected that within a few weeks of crossing the border, the Russian army would surrender or be defeated in a decisive battle. But the Russian commander Kutuzov chose a different strategy. Instead of going head-to-head, he continued to retreat, leaving behind scorched land, incinerated cities, and burned food warehouses. This strategy was scorched earth, destroying one's own resources and depriving the enemy of food and shelter. Napoleon's troops entered Russia, but they found no resistance anywhere. But here's the secret. The further they advanced, the more tired, weak, and lacking in supplies they became. Food could not be stored because everything was burned and spoiled. Disease, disorder, and lack of discipline arose among the troops. Finally, on September 7, 1812, the two armies met at Borodino outside Moscow. This was the only major clash of the war. Both sides suffered heavy losses. Napoleon won, but it was a Pyrrhic victory, where victory is achieved but the losses are so great that they are practically equivalent to defeat. Some 70,000 soldiers were killed in just one day. On September 14th, Napoleon finally entered Moscow, but the city was almost empty. The general public and the troops had left the city. Within days, various parts of the city were on fire, which burned for a week. It is believed that Russian secret units themselves set the city on fire so that the French could not hold out there for long. Napoleon sent messages to Tsar Alexander at this time, hoping for a political compromise, but Alexander did not respond. After waiting for a month, Napoleon decided to retreat. But it was October, the beginning of the Russian winter. Unfortunately, the retreat began in extreme weather conditions. Now began a tragic chapter in history. Temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees, bone-chilling cold, blizzards, icy roads. All in all, a picture of hell. Many of the soldiers had no shoes, no food, no place to sleep. Thousands of soldiers froze to death. Many of those who survived even began to eat each other's corpses for food. In the meantime, the Russian guerrilla attacks began. Cossack riders attacked the rear of the French army. Small groups were separated, supplies were looted. Individual troops lost their way and disappeared in the forest. Many generals and high-ranking officers were also killed or captured. The most terrible was the crossing of the Borodino River. There are thousands of soldiers drowned or died in Russian attacks. Of the approximately 600,000 soldiers who had begun the war, only 50,000 to 60,000 returned to Europe alive. Many of them were disabled, wounded, or mentally devastated. This defeat was not just a military failure. It was the beginning of the fall of Napoleon's empire. His defeat caused other European countries to revolt. Within a few years, Napoleon was first forced to abdicate, then exiled to the island of Elba. Although he returned and ruled for the 100 days, his empire finally collapsed at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Napoleon's campaign in Russia was a story of the confidence of a great military genius, miscalculation, and the terrible revenge of nature. The enemy on the battlefield was stronger than the enemy, but nature, bad luck, and bad decisions were more important. The Russian winter, the scorched earth strategy, long supply lines, and the failure to retreat in time were the main reasons for this disaster. This campaign is still an instructive example in history,